Now? No. Greetings. Welcome to BizArt's lecture series. I'd like to give an introduction for Troy Chu, and I'm going to read it because I can't do otherwise. Troy Chu is an American painter working from a Californian perspective. Troy's work in painting explores African-American vernacular and the cultural appropriations of the everyday. Utilizing traditional and precise painting techniques, he works in the traditions of Flemish painting and realism, translating these languages through his images, both through the use of the still life and most currently through figuration and the self-portrait. Graduating from the California College of Arts in San Francisco in 2018, he first received the Graduate Fellowship Award from the Headlands Center for the Arts, and then the prestigious Turnasol Award, which recognizes one local painter from the Bay Area, supporting them with studio space and a stipend for a full year. Since then, Troy has had a fast-paced record of solo exhibitions. Fuck the King and All the King's Horsemen at Parker Gallery in Los Angeles, Yada Damin at Cult Exhibitions in San Francisco, Stunt 101 at Guerrero Gallery in San Francisco, and WWJZD at Cushion Works, also San Francisco. His group exhibitions include Fuck You, I Yield My Time at Altman Siegel Gallery in San Francisco, We Are More Than a Moment at Gallery 51, North Adams, Massachusetts, California Winter at Christina Kite Gallery, and Black Now Here at the Museum of African Diaspora in San Francisco. The most recent group exhibition, Striving After Wind in New York, articulates the importance of repositioning European painting in contemporary culture. Striving After Wind, this is from their press release, which I thought was quite good, derives inspiration from the art historical genre of still life painting known as vanitas, which became widely recognized in Northern Europe in the 19th century. Typical vanitas paintings portrayed symbolic objects such as fruit, flowers, skulls, extinguished candles, and timepieces, among many others, that relayed narrative meaning. They were intended to convey moralistic messages and warn against overindulgence, reminding viewers of the transience of worldly pleasures and the inevitability of death in our current world, molded by capitalist excess and environmental degradation. Such works feel particularly prescient today. Striving After Wind presents a selection of contemporary works that revive and expand this art historical style to reflect upon our current times. I met Troy at the Headlands of the Arts, where I met a number of great artists. Part of my study was to continue my research into the migrations within painting, from Southern California to Northern California, tracing influences West Coast painting that has had on East Coast painting and on European painting. What I found was a fellow painter that is doing his own study through hip hop language and symbolism, tracking the migrations of the differences between West Coast and East Coast, Southern California and Northern California in hip hop music, its cultural and societal relevance, and creating a connection to his paintings. Please join me today with Shaylin Nelson, one of our honor students and a very good painter in his own right, to help me moderate with conversations, questions, and support as we welcome Troy Chu to share his work with us.
That was good, Monique. That was super good.
You deserve it.
Thanks,
you worked
thanks.
hard. Now show us the work.
Yeah, I was just, oh, that's me. Okay, well, yeah, should I just hop right in?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Present.
Your titles are so good, by the way.
Thanks, yo. Yeah, I feel like I get that inspiration from the music portion, you know, like I feel like they somewhat think about their titles, but yeah, language is all I'm about, really. But yeah, welcome everybody. Um, yeah, this is I'm gonna walk us through basically when I first began thinking of myself as an artist and then to now. But yeah, in 31 slides, I'll be able to let you guys know what's up. Yeah, high school. Seems like a long time ago, but I guess 10 years or so. Yeah, I was just thinking a lot about learning how to draw. I didn't really take interest in uh, like basketball and stuff, even though my parents had me in like basketball and baseball, football. I was just like, I'm bored with this. And well, we all have been drawing since we were kids, but I just like stuck with it kind of because I was always just bored with everything else. And yeah, these are some works from high school. Again, this, well, I didn't say it, but this lecture will be very picture based. Like I'm going to be saying most of the words and it'll just be mostly pictures. But yeah, mostly drawing people that were within hip hop culture. And that was all I was looking at as a high schooler and listening to music. And I just didn't really, uh, I didn't really think too much about what I was going to draw. It was just, let's draw the next rapper that I can draw. Let me see. Yeah. And then after high school, went to undergrad. I went to Said in 2010 to 2014. And it was a great experience. My undergrad degree was in psychology because the school didn't have an art major at the time. So I was able to minor in it. They had a few uh, painting classes that I was able to take, but prior to like undergrad, there was only one or two other classes that I took in high school because there wasn't like much funding in LA County, I guess, for schools. It's probably happening everywhere, but yeah, I mean, not schools, but art classes. And yeah, I didn't really know what art was about. So I still I still continued just drawing and painting rappers. But I didn't, prior to undergrad, I didn't paint before. It was always just drawing. So this was my first introduction to like oil painting. I used acrylics before, but yeah, I didn't know there was a difference in paint really. I was mixing oil and acrylic, just trying to get the color I needed. I didn't know anything about paint. But then in yeah, undergrad I started to understand it. Here's some yeah, undergrad works. I guess the one on my right, the um first oil painting like I did for a class. It was our still life that I did for a class, and they just told us paint subjects that are around us, and yeah, these were like some pieces that I had in my house, and it was just cool to paint from life. I never did it before, and it interests me a lot because it was the stuff that I had. Like I bought that stuff, and now I can paint it. Like that's so cool to me. But let's see what else. Yeah, and then I guess I'll intro into that one. But yeah, I ended up applying to grad school um, after undergrad, and well, it was art school that I was applying for. I was like, I'm just gonna forget the psychology part and write in. But I got declined by like every school I applied to. But I went to some portfolio review and they were kind of saying like my work was not personal enough. And I thought like, okay, it it seems pretty personal to me. And I just kind of, especially like with this painting on the right, I thought it was pretty personal, but this next one was like my response to that, and I was just thinking like this it getting declined from grad school just got me into thinking more about the paintings, and I was looking at this series as a I titled it Pockets, and I was looking at this series as kind of like a self portrait, like all the things that are in my pockets make up me, like, and then I wanted to continue this idea and paint other people's pockets because it kind of like expresses who they are. But yeah, this was just the beginning of me starting to like think more and not just paint a picture or like something that doesn't really matter or whatever, or make have thought to it. But yeah, so after undergrad, I didn't get into grad school, like I said, and I had a year off that I was just kind of going back to the drawing board, I guess, and just started to think about everything that I was putting in the painting. And yeah, now that I look at it, it was early form of kind of vanitas kind of stuff. But um, yeah, these are all figures within hip hop community, and um, I would just incorporate things that they talked about or things that are part of their personality. And yeah, let me see the next. Same with these ones, just thinking more about um, the person and kind of like what they represent. Um, yeah. But then I ended up getting into grad school, and that's when things just like got opened up. Like I had never been to a museum or art. Well, I've been to a museum, but it was like prehistoric artwork and stuff like that. And I just thought museums was just old stuff. And yeah, um, grad school, the first like week or so, our first month, they organized some trip where we went to a bunch of galleries in LA and kind of let us just explore. And that was like, even though we were back home in LA, like these were all places I've never been in my life. So I was like, what the heck is this? What this art has been hiding in front of me this whole time, and I didn't even know. But yeah, it opened up a lot of like ideas and things that I can do, or like my thought process. So yeah, I kind of didn't want to paint sometimes, so I started making sculptures. Uh, I started making sculptures and wanted to shift my ideas into that medium because I felt like not everything I wanted to say could be done in a painting. Like, I tried to paint some 40s and it just looked like 40s. So I made these miniature 40 bottles. It's probably like 4 feet, 4 inches tall. And then like made some paper bags and just thinking about how to make things other than painting. And I probably didn't include many of my other sculptures, but started making jewelry. Also, just it's a heavy thing within the hip hop community, and I just ever since I was young, I always had a chain, and I was like, damn, it'll be tight to make my own. And in CCA, they had a class, or not even a class. It was just a dude in the jewelry studio that I ended up um, knowing, and he hooked it up and taught me all I knew about jewelry. Like we couldn't take the class, but I just made a way somehow to like get in there. But then I also did continue to paint, and like I was still thinking a lot about still lifes. I don't know why I was just always attracted to still lifes. It seems just, yeah, you can tell a story with the items, I always thought. But I didn't think that before grad school because I just looked at all the still lifes as just what they were, just old flowers or dying or whatever. But once I found out like people were hiding meaning within these paintings, I was like, damn, I can do the same thing. But yeah, with my own community, or yeah, this is a shot from uh, my studio. Yeah, I was just still able to just explore and things I could not do within my garage back at home. Like just a lot of learning. And then in grad school, I formed, well, not I formed, became a part of a collective, 5/5 collective. And we started it kind of thinking about like just a lot of Black issues within grad school and within the world. And we just saw how we were, all of us could overlap in some kind of way. But we were the only three Black people in the program. So it was just like we grew, or like we were bound to come together at some point. And we just, yeah, wanted to put all of our work together and uh, talk about ideas and share ideas with each other. And this is some of the work that we did in like um, this one is specifically is at SFAI, and yeah, we did work at MOAD. That's how I got my there too. And let me see what's next. Yeah, in grad school, I also, like I said, started to think more about the work, and I forget how I was exposed to the book, but there was some book that my friend gave me, and it talked about mud cloth, and I understood that analyzed it way too deep, and I was just thinking about how it comes from actual, like they grow the cloth, or they grow the cotton, then they make the cloth, and that's one form of it being out the mud. But then they dye the cloth with actual mud, and it becomes the pigment that they use on the in the dyeing process. And then in hip hop, there's a phrase "out the mud" that basically is that same idea of just making something from nothing. I started to draw the similarities and differences, or look at the similarities and differences between like hip hop culture and or Black culture and African American African American lineage, basically. And yeah, that's when I came up with this series that it'll probably be here forever, um, where I work with different types of uh, West African cultural cloth. I started off with the mud cloth, which is the three on the left, but it's like I couldn't just only talk about Mali. I like most slaves come from all of West Africa. So it's like I just thought I needed to branch out and work with all of West African countries. So I ended up making another one. The one on the right is Indop cloth, and it's no, it's not cloth. It's Benin cloth, and it comes from Benin. And yeah, they use a lot of applique within their work. And yeah, thinking about also the difference between high art and low art. Like the cloths are considered low art because I don't know why really, but just because it's not stretched maybe, but the canvas paintings are still made out of the same thing, cotton, some kind of natural pigment. So that was definitely a thing I wanted to like challenge within the art world because these are paintings at the end of the day. Even though some people like have rugs or blankets with the design. Yeah, these are some other works within the series that I made too. Yeah, the left one and the right one are again Benin cloth, and then the one is Indop cloth, comes from Cameroon. So yeah, like I said, just gonna explore all of them. But cloth was uh, an interesting one to me because, or no, it was Benin cloth that was interesting to me because the men were the ones who make the cloth, but then that kind of was just like it went against all of the I had about like women making cloths and like a lot of people bring that up when they see like the sewing part of my work and I'm just like it doesn't matter like men need to know how to do sewing too like it just makes sense but yeah the end up I mean the yeah end up cloth in the middle uh they use indigo to dye the uh I was gonna call it well paintings and yeah so I just mirrored it with the indigo painting at the bottom and CCA had an indigo vat too so that like just made it feel so much more not necessarily authentic but it's not just like a me painting it blue and then this is one that is more recent but it's again playing on the idea of if it's the high art and low art thing and I did a kind of like trompe effect on the oil painting part. And this is actually a this is actually an oil painting, but it looks like it's sewn on, and then the part that kind of looks like a painting is actually stitched in. And yeah, just switching up the regular way of working. But yeah, and then also in grad school, I developed like a series called Slanguage, and yeah, all based on hip. Like as you can see through from the beginning, it's just like hip hop heavy inspiration. But um, Slanguage, I kind of started this series thinking about how a lot of people would ask me like, "Oh, what does that mean in the song?" Like when rappers would use a word like, well, these ones are a little more obvious, but iron or something like that. Like I found myself just having to explain all of these like literal definitions, and I was already doing still life, so it felt like I would paint all the slang terms that have figurative representation um, within the music that I was listening to. And let's see. Yeah, these were a part of my first solo show at Cushion Works, and it was a cool learning experience. This is a time where I was at the Headlands, and the Headlands is an old military base, some kind of military base. But yeah, I was in the basement at, with in my first studio there, kind of making these works, and it was right next to where they had a missile, or like these missile visits. I guess people would come and visit the missile, and they would take it out and they would raise it and lower it. Just it was just an interesting sight, like because I've never seen one before, and like just thinking about a weapon that big. And then I'm listening to all this hip hop music that's talking about weapons, and then I'm listening to um, the news, and they're talking about weapons and school shootings and stuff. So it was just kind of a time where I dedicated all this language that I was gonna make to kind of like, yeah, the weapons that were surrounding me metaphorically, you know. But these are all um, somewhat a stand-in for uh, a gun, or yeah, most of these like literal representations. Like if somebody said they got a Big Mac, they're not talking about a burger. There is a type of gun. But these ones were also made when I was at my time at the Headlands. They're a totally different series within the Slanguage series, but um, this was all, well, except the one on the left. This is where the left is all about grills, like the ice and then the literal grill. But the one on the right, I was starting to think about the Bay Area influence on slang within the world, or America at least. Um, but there was a lot of words that they created that influenced the culture. And yeah, like 420 is a Bay Area thing. Um, yeah, let me see what else. This one is all about weed, and broccoli or cauliflower is named for weed, and the Bay Area kind of coined these words. A crutch is something that you put at the end of a joint to like keep it open from when you're passing it. But yeah, just different way to analyze still lifes, and yeah, more from the Bay Area kind of. Well, the show Yada I mean. And now I guess I would talk about my time at the Headlands. How am I doing on time? Am I zooming through this Zoom? That's funny. What time is it?
I think you're fine.
Okay, cool.
We didn't get to see that painting with the flying bread for long enough, but maybe you can.
I'll leave it for a sec. Let me drink a little water.
We just need to rest on this one.
Well, I can talk about it too.
Yeah.
It was all about money. The one on the left, bread, cheddar, cheese, cabbage, bread. It's just all slang terms for money. So it was just, and they were all created within the Bay Area, which was just a cool. It's just so cool to think how they impacted the whole American language, like just by coming up with slang, you know. Let's go.
How's the basketball money?
Oh, balling,
Literally.
to ball,
Oh.
verb. It's the verb. But yeah, then well, I was like I said, I was already at the Headlands, but if I didn't have that studio, I would not have been the artist I am today because fresh out of grad school, like I didn't know how I was gonna continue making work. It just would have been in the garage, but it would have been a whole nother it would have been a lot of no motivation because I wouldn't have been around artists. And yeah, the Headlands had like so many artists coming in and out like on a rotating basis. I met so many people like Monique and like yeah, just
We have a lot of alumni too on the faculty.
oh, that is dope.
Yes, Anya Galacio, Daniel D.
Oh,
I don't think got to go for COVID, but
damn. Oh, yeah, that's a whole another thing. But um, yeah, I enjoyed time there. I had my first year as a grad fellow, which they pick one graduate student from all the Bay Area schools, and I was the CCA candidate. And yeah, the second year I got it for the Turnesol, and it was well, the first year as a grad fellow, you don't get any money. It's just you get studio space, and then as Turnesol, that was like the first time I experienced getting a real amount of money. I was just like, dang, you're giving me to just paint or continue to do what I was gonna do if you didn't give it to me. But I was like, damn, this is so dope. And it just fueled me to make so much more. This is more of the Headlands. It was just amazing. It was like going camping every day.
we basically met in a lunch line.
Yeah,
I
so
enjoyed,
many.
I enjoyed my award as well. It was like
Oh yeah,
very
so
generous.
much food, so much food. Like it was lunch and dinner like 5 days a week. Like I didn't have to worry about leaving the place. Like 24-hour access.
If
It was
anybody
just
really wants to know what they can do to help artists, we should just say feed them. Just
yes, for real, for real, in all kinds of ways to feed them. But this was my second studio that I had there, so it was much bigger space. Like I could fit like two or three of my, probably four of my grad school studios in here. It was just lovely. Like I need a space like this again.
And those
But
paintings with the rugs, are the rug image, is that all trompe l'oeil, or is there some collaging happening?
well, this one was our first few that I did, and the rip is not actually. Well, it's like I only gessoed the middle portion, and then I kept the it, I guess raw canvas. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. But yeah, this was I definitely miss it because I just probably 5 months ago, 4 months ago. I'm like, damn, I want to go back. But yeah, COVID happened and it changed the way I was working there. Like I had to not be there as often, and that sucked. But yeah, and then I guess I will in the back you can kind of see it, but I started. I got a Facebook mural uh, proposition in my email one day, and I was, "What the heck is this?" And they offered to for me to do a mural in their um, headquarters in San Francisco, if that's what you would call it. But it was the first time I ever was able to do a mural. Like I never even thought about doing a mural, and now I think about doing them like way more often. But yeah, it was such a interesting experience because they yeah just popped up in my inbox, and I was just, what the heck? This is really Facebook, but they asked me to do a proposal for based on my work, and I chose to do something from the Out the Mud series, and this is the Indop cloth from Cameroon, like the blue one that I did earlier. And I kind of, this was the proposal that I gave to them. And I never did a mural before. And this was like my sample one that I tried in my studio. And then this is the process. I had me and one of my friends from high school as a assistant, and yeah, I think we had 2 weeks to do it. This was also, it was considered a residency, and they also had a great food system. Like I was getting breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week, and some there was a bar. I'm like, this is just lovely. Like I need to be a real employee here. But yeah, this was this was it. And yeah, 2 weeks later.
That is
But
amazing.
thanks. And it was, I
It's
don't use acrylic, so I was just like, ah, I haven't done this in so long, and it's gonna be so much harder to do. And it's the fastest painting I've ever like had to turn around, like 2 weeks. But yeah, it was just, yeah, great experience, great learning experience for sure. And then being in connection with them, they also, well, I didn't tell them that this was my first mural. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm down to do a mural. But like after working with them the first time, uh, they approached me to do another project, which was more recent, and it was surrounding the voting campaign. And just, I just like the idea that they hit me up to do it because they were putting them like in local spaces that yeah, like will actually affect change and stuff. But yeah, they were all around different cities and stuff like that. And this is a little clip they put together. Hope it's not too loud.
To me, 2020 is a restart for everyone. So we really need to take time out, seek education and knowledge.
Art gives voice to the voiceless. So when you have no way to express yourself, when you feel like no one's listening to you, you can project your voice.
Does tell the story of what we need to do as a country, what we need to do as citizens.
Yeah, I just put the whole little ad in here, but it was a good experience to be a part of this campaign. Oh, I guess it wants to play again. Yeah, but then well, this happened before, but I also work in other series that are not um, which are Out the Mud, just because those kind of have a strict criteria, like at least in my head. Um, I also just have so many other ideas that I have to eventually just get out. And this was a kind of a commemoration to the teeth that I lost. Um, but yeah, you can still see a little cracked one, but it was a situation that happened in undergrad where I got beat by the police and got knocked out and stuff like that. But yeah, looking at these three teeth and teeth within hip hop and teeth within my lineage, um, like my dad also has two front teeth that are false, and then my granddad has three or two front teeth. My dad has one, my granddad has two, and I have three. But my granddad's actually are gold too, so I just always had this connection to like gold teeth in my head. But then within hip hop culture, it's obvious that a lot of the rappers have gold and diamond in their mouth. But they, I like the idea that they often bring up about their words or like the value of their words, kind of, and the things that come out their mouth are the things that they put in their mouth. But yeah, this was I guess, something that was more personal versus the other works is more like about the culture and the community that I'm in. But let me see. And yes, so were these more personal. Like this was more. The one on the right is more like uh, going back or visiting the scene that happened with my teeth getting knocked out. But yeah, it was an interesting time. But the one on the left is uh, another self-portrait that I was just thinking about, like me being invisible within the art world or whatever that even means, but also being invisible within my like personal life. I was an Uber driver at the time, and it was like people just hopping in and out or just like not really interacting. Like I would say hello, some of them would just already have their headphones in and not even say anything back. So it was like me feeling that sense of invisibility too. And then like me uploading like an image of my line, and then it's like it's not me, but it's circulating, and like it was just all this weird invisibility stuff in my head. So I was like, I gotta attempt to do this, and yeah, that is it. But I think there's not many. Oh, and this is another one from the Slanguage series, most recent. But I think this is the last slide. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah, definitely.
Your work is incredible.
So this is, yeah, some early stages. Like,
So much to talk about. Shaylin's going to jump in with some of those questions.
Yeah, are we good on how good are we on time? So how many questions I can ask? Like,
So all day. I don't know.
oh, awesome.
Bailey, you can tell us.
Working on time. I just want to say thank you, Troy, for the amazing lecture. Thank you so much. It was great.
Yeah, thank you too, Troy. That was really great.
And Shaylin Nelson, one of the undergraduates in the program, is going to ask some questions now and get the discussion rolling. So take it away, Shaylin.
Yeah, thank you, Bailey. So yeah, of course, you know, as an LA-based artist, I'm also from Los Angeles, and I can like resonate with so many of your pieces. I had a question. I wanted to know, like, you know, when you think about doing a piece, does your work aim to educate, you know, a Black audience and have it resonate with them, or do you feel like you try to make work that reaches out to a non-Black audience and kind of opens up this culture to them as well and shares it with them? Or is it, you know, is it like a mixture of resonation between Black culture and, you know, opening up to like a non-Black culture?
well, I think anything that that you put into the art world it is not necessarily Black culture because you like they it's not, how do I explain this? Like it's a whole different culture than Black culture. So anything that I put into the art world is kind of like me educating them, but it's mostly to talk to Black people. But once I put it in like galleries and uh, like museums and stuff, it becomes to educate everybody. So it's like, yeah, it accomplishes both, and not necessarily educate, but like just because I feel like my work is more like archiving the culture and like, yeah, and if I'm looking at it that way, it's kind of, to Black people, it's just like me talking about the culture versus if it's in the art market or art world, it's like a learning kind of situation there.
Nice. And based off of like what you were saying about, I love what you said about like archiving, you know, this culture. Do you believe that just like doing, like using the medium of oil paint helps with that? Because like traditionally with like oil paintings, you don't usually see African American culture being represented or shown. Do you think working in that medium helps with that?
Um, I can't say it, like if I was acrylic only, I would still be like trying to get this like idea out. But like I do understand that there is like a lineage that is just mostly like white dudes. But I like the way oil paint flows, and like it's just a different feeling than when I work with acrylic. So I I like oils mostly.
Awesome. I feel that. Same with me. I'm an oil painter.
Nice.
Um, Another question I wanted to ask. This is just like my own curiosity because I took a hip hop class literally just like last quarter, and we discussed, you know, the interconnections between hip hop culture, graffiti, you know, MCs, and like very often a lot of people within hip hop culture will associate graffiti art with hip hop culture. Do you see any kind of influence with graffiti with your art, and how you relate, if you relate graffiti art to hip hop culture, and if that bounces off any influence to your work?
I would say once I like when I got to grad school, I started analyzing hip hop even more, and I understood that like the graffiti art back in the day was basically, they should have been putting that on a canvas and putting it in a gallery, you know? So it's like almost like a revamping of the graffiti art in a way. I look at it like that. It's not like me actually spray painting anything, but like it's about hip hop. It it's basically, well, because there's like five elements to hip hop. So, and graffiti is a subcategory or whatever. But I feel like there needs to be like a breakdown of like what that includes, because it's not, yeah, times have changed. It's not only that.
That's dope. So like in a way you're kind of like doing like these graffiti artists in the past justice by like, you know, representing hip hop culture kind of the way that they did with your own work.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
dope. Nice. Awesome. So in another article I read, where you were interviewed, it was by Natasha Boas, I believe. I read about how she said that in your painting, Wall Street Journal, your images alluded to like money, like you said. But at the same time, she said it equally points to poverty and food insecurities in the same communities where these vernaculars are born. I wanted to know what your take was on depicting the culturally popular brands that are on like the more expensive end of like the consumer market, like how hip hop will mention like Prada or like Gucci or like Louis Vuitton, like that kind of stuff. Like what's your take on like kind of like representing that consumer market if you do?
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I would say before I used to think about it, I would just include the logos of these companies because like they're the ones that were around, like, but when I'm putting them in the painting, I also have been able to understand that I'm like solidifying them in the culture. So like now I just will take their logo out and put like my name or switch it all up. So it still alludes to them in the culture, but like I don't want to be giving free promo. Like I'm not getting paid by them, so it's not gonna happen anymore. But I understand like that it does bleed into the culture and like you like what you like. So yeah.
Nice. There was this question I had, just it popped in my head as you were saying the lecture. It just like brought it up as like a professional artist yourself. Like as a professional artist making work during like the pandemic, do you find it difficult to showcase your work like on a digital platform like Zoom, while there are other platforms like Instagram that have art also being showcased all the time too? Like, pre-COVID, you can make a clear distinction between art that you could see in a museum or like see in a gallery and art that was like only visible online. Does like making work during COVID change your perspective on this platform and how you showcase your work?
Well, from the beginning, I've always had this idea that Instagram or like social media is a great one of the best ways to like get your work out there, especially like that's how Facebook found like I didn't have a website. Like everything people knew about me was just on my Instagram. So it's like it is useful, but like I understand that seeing works in person is like a much different experience. It doesn't just get scrolled past with just a thumb click. But I think it hasn't really affected me because I was always like hopeful or like understanding that this shit is gonna end soon. Like if we just all stay in like, and I'm just in the studio painting every day, so it's like I chill in here as long as they telling us to chill. And once it opens up, I'm gonna have a whole bunch of new paintings to show. Like I don't necessarily post everything I'm working on, but like, yeah.
Nice. Awesome. And if I could ask one more question, so how do you believe the elitist realm within the art world views your art? Like, do you think they categorize it as like, quote unquote, the other, like something that they maybe not quite understand? But at the same time, it's like something that they're aware of because of how popular hip hop culture is now and how it's kind of moving into like the mainstream. So like, what's your, idea on how the elitists view your art, if you have any?
Yeah. Well, I don't care about it. Like I don't even think about them when I'm making my art. Like because when I was making it, yeah, when I first started making it, I was not focused on that. Like it was just for me to get my idea to me, and like if it looked lit to me, then I will show it to the world, and their opinions are just their opinions. But like I still made the thing that I thought was cool. It's like I solved the problem like in my head, and it came out onto the canvas. Like I don't think about what elite like. No, somebody is still gonna like it. Somebody, yeah.
yeah, somebody's still going to resonate it either way, right? So
Yeah.
that's all that matters. Nice. Thank you.
Asking about the relationship between sort of, what was it, low and high art that Troy kind of like talked a little bit about with some of your paintings. That what I forgot how you coined it, but you know, the relationship between like fine and high,
Folk art.
like folk
Yeah.
art.
Yeah.
art.
Yeah. And I like how you depicted that in some of your paintings, how you like blurred that line with, like, you fooled me, like when you showed the painting of like the one that looked like it was stitched together, but you painted that, and the one that looked like it was painted, but you stitched it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So I could definitely see that, you know, you blur these lines between what is high art and what is low art, and you know, it's all just art. So that's
And I would definitely say like the psychology background has played a lot of like help, or because it just made me over analyze everything. Like, yeah, definitely when it comes to like words and yeah.
Yeah, I really was so interested in that background and a degree that you have in that,
Yeah.
how that has translated in, you know, like almost like um, the logistics of using that in the painting.
Yeah. Because I mean, I'm making it for people at the end of the day at this point. So it's like, I know that I'm making it for me to an extent to just see if I can do it. And that's for me part. Like, but once it's in the world, it's in the world and it's for people to see. So like knowing what people like to look at, like I noticed there's a trend of like people like everybody's painting portraiture and people right now. It's just because people like to look at people. Like it's a thing that is, I forget. I learned it in psychology, but like people just like to look at people. So it's like I wanted to make something that was a little harder. Like that's why in the Slanguage ones I don't try to include the faces like I are in the still life side, just things. It's like I want to make the stuff you're not supposed to look at a little more interesting. But I could just be saying that because I'm too lazy to paint the face. Right? But yeah.
Yeah, your work does not look lazy.
No, yeah.
Do you want to get the Q&A started, Bailey?
Sure, we can jump in. We've got some questions in the chat. Let's see, Taylor asks, can you speak a little bit more about the function of your still life work within the current state of American capitalism? Also, do you have any shows coming up?
That is an interesting question. Well, I think it kind of ties back to what I was saying earlier about like kind of excluding the logos from my work, or just like manipulating the logos. Because like, yeah, a lot of people are making money in different ways, and like I just didn't look into all the politics behind of all these brands and all of that before when I was painting earlier. But now, yeah, I'm like, let me just represent my art and not yeah, I don't even want to say the names of these companies, you know, like, but yeah, it's an interesting thing because like I'd also know like it's part of art because especially when it comes to buying what you like somebody made that thing and you like that thing, so it's just it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. It's a strange space to navigate, the late
Yeah.
capitalism world.
But at the same time too, if I could add, I feel like we have these things to kind of like perpetuate these ideas in motion, right? We have like certain media that puts these like brands in like a certain light to, you know, we consume it through media, through like visuals, and then we like, oh wow, I guess I like that, you know what I mean? And then I feel like it maybe like continues that kind of cycle going around too, some ways.
Definitely. But I mean, even beyond that, like, even if it's a brand that you know, like, if you like the shirt, you like the shirt, like, I don't mean buy the shirt, but like, you like how it looks, like, so like, it's kind of like sometimes I find myself lying to myself when I don't, like, when I say I like something, but then sometimes I find that I'm not lying to myself when I say I do like stuff. So it's just like trying to find the balance of, that.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like trying to find out if you like it on a subconscious level, or if it's just like face value, if you're just saying it, kind of just.
Yeah, like, because the influence of the culture, like, do you like this vodka or whatever? Like, it's just a new vodka, like, just different things, like, yeah.
Awesome. And what about the second part of Taylor's question? Do you have any shows coming up?
Oh, not that.
Well, we'll all look forward to whatever the next one is, for sure. Sabrina asks, would love to hear more of your thoughts on translation or codes. How does that play into your process and pieces?
That's lit. I like that question. I think about that often, and yeah, it's basically like all of hip hop language is, not all of it, but a good portion of the slang that is made is coded, and it is made for a certain type of people, and then, well, not even for a certain type of people, for people who understand the language. And you can learn it's just, it is and coding, it is just all tied together. What was the question again? I really love this question, so I'm like, don't want to mess it up.
It was, would love to hear more of your thoughts on translation.
Oh, just my thoughts. Dang, I wish it was a question. Like, yeah, I think about it often. Yeah, but so much to, I'm gonna like figure out some way to use it more obviously in some projects.
That's interesting. I find in my painting practice that painting really kind of exaggerates people's reactions. Like, people react very strongly when they encounter like codes or coded messages in painting, more so than other genres. Do you think there's like a specific kind of communication that takes place in the context of painting?
Yeah, well, it's just people don't want to understand that language of that painting, you know, when they have like negative reactions or something along those lines. Because it's, yeah, like you said, in movies, that there's so many crazy movies that you've watched where you're just like, what? Dang, but I like this little part, or I like how she dressed, or, you know, like, you can find the moments within the painting too. You just gotta like sit with it and try to understand it. But yeah, coding is, yeah, coding and language are the same thing, and painting is a language.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. We have another question from Kirsten, who says, where do you find your fabrics for reference material? Is it through searching photographs or purchasing at shops? And how does the process of choosing these fabrics inform the meaning of your paintings?
Yeah, well, find them all on the internet, and I just look at tons of the imagery that they use, and kind of, it's like I look at it as research and analyze all the similarities and differences. And I'll start by picking a country that I am is in West Africa. So it's generally based on wherever I pick, and then I just dive right in to see how they're made and understanding the culture. Because the reason I started project was because it was like Black people don't have a connection or to their culture, or like our past culture, you know. So it's like me kind of doing the research and connecting and understanding the culture, because that's the only way you know about it, by researching and understanding.
I had a question on that. So do you think like your work kind of helps to like form that bridge of like knowledge between it? Because like even like I know there's like African prints and like African symbols that I don't even know of, you know what I mean? Like even like on kente cloths, there's symbols that I'm not even aware of. And so do you feel like you're kind of like a moderator in a way to kind of like bring these two cultures together of African culture and like
I
African
would say,
American?
I would say kinda, but like it's my interpretation, or like my understanding, like, because I just from researching, I could be leaving out so much pieces of like the history, so I don't know like everything about it. It's just me appreciating culture, because like, yeah, I just do as much research as I can to properly represent it, but like it's so much is lost because it's all like oral tradition. And like I would have to go to Africa, hopefully that happens soon, but like, yeah, go to Africa and then like literally talk to everybody that makes these specific cloth, or like it's just every country I would have to go to, you know. But yeah, I do think of it as some type of moderator, but like from an outside, from my perspective, from like somebody from the hood, like somebody that never even knew a mud cloth before grad school, you know. Like I didn't know what a mud cloth was. I just like, oh, those are some African cloths, like it looked African. So it was just no more depth within it to me. But yeah.
Awesome. That's so interesting. I think people don't often appreciate how much research can go into a painting, but it's a lot for sure. It's great to hear. Let's see. Here's another question. You mentioned you see your work as archival. Do you consider your paintings to be historical? What type of historical legacy do you intend your paintings to have?
Well, I don't know about the larger canon of history, but like anything that you make is a part of your history. So like in that sense, yeah, like I even with this kind of lecture that I set up, I'm kind of like analyzing and looking at my own history within the world, and like with the paint or drawings that I did back in the early stages, you could tell which rappers or musicians I was looking at just based on, or who was popular within the time, just from looking at the drawings that I did. And like as I progressed, and like you can see, yeah, just different influences that if I didn't look back, I would have just been totally like oblivious. And like that's one thing that grad school kind of allowed me to do, like look at my history and understand like where I'm going or trying to go. So if anything, like I'm looking at my history, not necessarily like the world history or the larger canon, because yeah, I don't know what they gonna say about anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear.
If we could we bounce back to another question that he talked about? About the research that you do, just, you know, all the research that goes into like doing these pieces. I know a topic was brought up in Monique in our class last quarter about the one who's chosen to like present this kind of artwork, and if, you know, someone who's not from African American culture kind of like can represent this work as long as like they do the research. What's like your take on that? If like somebody who's, say, like outside of hip hop culture, outside of African American culture, if they do the research, are they able to kind of represent this art form in the same way that you can?
No. Simply like they can't represent it the way I can, but they can represent their version of what they see. Like if I paint a white person, like I can still paint like I could paint a French person, or be in Paris and painting landscapes of people. Like, no, it's just your view of the culture. So I think, yeah, painters can paint anything, because ultimately you got to remember it's just them coming from their perspective. It's not like them trying to culturally appropriate, or like, because it would be impossible within the art world to try to, I don't know, maybe impossible, but like with Black culture, I don't think like it would work as easy. Like,
Because I feel like, yeah, what were you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
Because yeah, I was gonna say, like, even like with my art too, right? Like, I feel like people outside of African American culture don't question my quote unquote Black authenticity, because I am Black. You know what I mean? So I feel like we have like the privilege of representing this kind of thing, as, you know, us being Black in that kind of way. I forgot where I was gonna go with this, but I feel like having this sort of like distinction with our like physical features, or just like what kind of background we come from. I feel like you said, I guess, like if somebody doesn't come from that background, of course, like they could still kind of represent it. They can still do this kind of art, but it just won't be the same kind of representation that you may do, or that I may do with that.
Yeah,
it's their own interpretation of it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, not saying that it's more authentic, it's just their view of it. Like if somebody made a video in Compton that, and they're Black, they're not Black, like, versus someone who made it in Compton and they are Black, it's the same, they shooting the same thing, but it's just coming from their perspective and like what they're putting on it. But I guess when it comes to like the selling it part, people get, yeah, that's where it starts to get tricky, because it's like that's the kind of, yeah, I don't know, damn, that's something you got to work out within yourself as an artist, if you gonna do that kind of thing, like represent a culture and not like be contributing. Yeah, I guess if you're contributing to the culture, then you can do it too. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one, but definitely something to think about. Like, just always ask the art questions, because it's not like, I don't think anybody is trying to offend anybody. It's just they have a viewpoint, and then like, yeah,
Yeah, maybe we're just getting into the like encroaching on the realm of anthropology, or the questions of anthropology as they relate to painting.
No, that's That's the good part. That's the good.
Okay, well, we have a couple more questions from chat. Michael asks, how would your painting's code/meaning change outside the US? In even the US, many may not comprehend the meaning. So is it more important to know there is a meaning than understanding the meaning?
Well, at the end of the day, it is a painting, something that you look at. So I do want you to just, like, I do want people to approach the painting as a painting. Like, if it was abstract, it's just colors and, well, the meaning abstraction, but like it, you don't understand what you see sometimes. So it's the same thing in that case. Like, you just see some color in the shape of I don't know, cheese, or in the shape of bread, but you don't know what it is. But that's when you start to look up what the artist is trying to represent. Like, when I hook them in with like an interesting looking painting, like that's when I would hope that they would like continue doing the research and try to understand more. Cause yeah, it, some of these words I have never even used. I just researched them and then I understood what they meant within a certain song, or like, yeah, this is all looking it up after you find interest.
Yeah, definitely. Then one last question from the chat. As a young, thriving artist, what advice do you have for other young artists who are starting their art journey or trying to build a name for themselves?
Just keep making, like, don't stop. Like, you're gonna have a lot of distractions that you could like, you could be distracted with, but if you're trying to get it, then don't paint. Like, I, once I got to grad school, I, even before grad school, I was just like painting in my garage every day, just because it was the thing I thought was the most fun. Like, so that's all I could say. Like, that's the only thing I've been doing is just painting, just keep doing it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Just keep painting.
Yeah,
That's what I tell my students all the time. Shaylin, did you have any other questions for Troy?
I can see, I think I may have had a few that I didn't go over yet, so everybody can get their questions in. Yeah, so there's another question that I wanted to ask too. I wrote down like your work seems to give like very specific like symbolism, of course, through like the codes that you put in. And it seems like ambiguous at first from like someone who doesn't know the culture. Do you believe like the visuals that you put in your work motivates a non-hip hop audience to do more research on these references so that they can understand hip hop culture more, or like understand the music more? Yeah, well, like what's your thoughts on that?
yeah, because that's the whole reason I started the series, kind of based on people question, like having a general question, like asking me, what does this mean? So it's kind of like me breaking down hip hop already. So like, I would hope that they kind of like approach the music with the learning kind of aspect after that, because it's not they're just saying mumbo jumbo over some music. Like, they're saying actual words, but if you like, it may not be the stories that you want to listen to sometimes, so, or the beat that is attached, like, but they're, all of it is just stories that I guess need decoding, because like it's so much of a language that, yeah, that they're expressing in.
Nice, dope.
And do you have a like an interest in, say, the one style versus another, or say like Shay and I were talking
Oh no,
about, like
no.
anti-capitalist hip hop versus
No, I think they all play their place. Like, because yeah, if you didn't have one, you wouldn't have the other. Really, like, I listen to all types of hip hop because there's a time for each of them. Like, I can't be like sleepy listening to like get up, get up, get up. Like, it's not the same effect, you know. Like, yeah, there's a time for them all. Like, I just utilize all of them.
Thanks. Well, I did do some more research into. I did listen to E40, and then I can't remember some of the other bands that you
That's so tight though. Yeah, I know. No, that's tight though. I know it's
And then I became a
kind of hard to. You said what?
Then I became a Boots Riley fan for the anti-capitalist aspect of the.
Yeah. He does have. And have you seen his movie? Did you know he made a movie?
Yeah, that movie.
Yeah.
What is it called?
Oh, sorry to bother you.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a crazy, it's a crazy movie. Oh yeah, just yeah. But yeah, any more questions, guys?
Unless Shaylin or Monique have some more, I think we're about out of time.
Okay.
But I want to thank you so much for being so generous with your time today and coming to do this great lecture and it's really interesting Q&A. It's been an amazing experience. And there's a whole bunch of people in the chat that are just saying like they love your work and thanking you. So
Thanks.
thank you so much.
And thank you,
Thanks for having me.
Paolo and Nick and everybody that makes this happen so seamlessly.
Yeah, thank you as well, Troy. You answered a lot of my questions and I was like just really into your work too. I'm glad Monique, shared your work with me and, gave me the opportunity to ask these questions too. So it was a really cool experience to be able to talk to you.
Dope. Yeah, I definitely want to see your work too.
Dude, not after your work, man.
No, that doesn't matter.
Yeah. All right. I got you. Some of it's already in the back, but that's far away.
We'll make that happen.
All right. Yeah.
And you're gonna go visit some of our awesome grads.
Yeah. That'll be cool. I remember when I was getting the visits, and it's now cool to be giving the visits. It was not that far long ago, like 4 years at most. So, yeah.
I know. You've been working quickly. You're fast tracking.
Well, thanks again, everybody. I will leave the Zoom now.
Thank you so much, Troy.
Thank you, Troy.
Your work is awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, should we, I don't know.